sales is going to be easier in the summer. And I basically forgot the entire process. So I'd walk into the estimate like uber confident and have none of the other steps completed. And then for some reason, I was surprised when they're like, yeah, we got to think about it. Or yeah, we're going to get a couple other estimates. I was like, what the heck?
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tell your friends. We've got a big episode today. We got the entire executive team from CollegeWorks, and they're here to talk about starting businesses. They're going to talk about the scariest part of starting a business for them and the lessons they learned from facing those fears. They're going to talk about what they wish they did, what they're glad they did, and the character traits of success. And we're going to end with what does it take to be prepared for the next step? Here we go. Welcome to the show and welcome to the Edge of Excellence. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you to everybody for making time today. We're going to get into some of the struggles starting a business. A lot of our audience is starting a business, the same business you all started, but this is going to be for anybody starting a business. We're going to dive into the struggles of starting a business. Everyone on the call's done it. They're going to share. We're going to talk about the scariest part before they started, the actual failures, what they learned, and what to do if you're in the midst of starting a small business right now in 2026 or later, depending on when you're listening to this. So welcome to the show, and I'm just going to kick it off. I'm just going to go around robin. Everybody here's young. Brett, you're 22, I think, 23. How old are you?
25.
I'm not allowed to ask that. We got 25 Brett, we got 23 Schuster, we got what, 24 McCullough?
Yep, just turned 24.
We got 45 or 50 Sean. We've got Jack. I know you're only 26, right?
27.
27. Kory, you're 26.
That is correct.
Bunch of people in their 20s and two really, really old dudes on the call too. We're usually considered young, but not with this group. And let's dive in. What did you want to do before you decided to be an entrepreneur? We'll start with you, Jack.
I went to school at UW-Madison for actuarial science, and I took 3 classes my freshman year of college. Maybe it was my first semester, sophomore year, of all AXI classes, a lot of number crunching, like calculus and probabilities. And I was also an intern here at the same time. But my goal in life was to sit at the bank and crunch numbers and sit there on a calculator and a cubicle. That was my vision of my future.
Well, the episode before this episode 192, will tell you, Jack, that job is gone. Thank God you changed. So you were going to be a number crunching AI bot. Well, I'm glad you didn't do that. Brett, what was your original goal before you decided to become an entrepreneur and start a company?
Kind of similar to Jack. My dad was a tax accountant, which is one of the more boring accountants that you can be, apparently, from a lot of people I talked to. But he did that for like 40 years, was a tax executive, and took me into the office a lot. And I thought that sounded interesting and cool. And I took a couple classes and started doing this and learning sales and realized very quickly that I am not an accountant.
So 2 trial and errors. Like my daughter wanted to be a chem major. She took the class. I can't be a chem major. I wanted to be a math major. Decided I can't be a math major. You guys had a career change right in the beginning of college, and you decided to not do what you were doing, but you didn't decide to be an entrepreneur then, either of you, right?
Not yet.
No.
All right, Schuster, you're the youngest on the call. You were busy catching spirals, I think, playing football in South Dakota. What did you want to do before you decided to be an entrepreneur? Or did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
I didn't really have a vision of exactly what I wanted to do. I was throwing the spirals. In college, I was playing football at the University of Sioux Falls and super caught up in that. Just focused on football, going to school, went to school for business administration, kept it super broad because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. Something in business. And then, as I did this, I kind of learned sales and management is more of my thing. And now in the future, hopefully getting into real estate development.
I'm glad everybody knew that Tyler was the quarterback, not the wide receiver, except for the dude that doesn't know anything about sports, and everybody's laughing at me. And we're on screen. Everybody can see this. McCullough, what about you?
Yeah, so my freshman year of college was COVID, going into Grand Valley State University. I thought I wanted to be an engineer. That was like my entire dream growing up. I had a lot of family that were in that background and very detail oriented, and math and science was a strong suit. And then when COVID happened and I got to try out the engineering classes, I then switched to business supply chain management. So that was, I guess, two very different worlds. And then obviously found myself here eventually.
All right. And then Kory, we're going to save the best for last. You were already an entrepreneur when you went to college because you had your cattle business. I think he was buying and selling cattle and then buying more cattle with the profits and saving money and buying land and doing all this nerdy, weird farm stuff that I guess everybody does in Colby, Kansas, or just you?
Just me and my brothers and one of my good friends growing up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Those other Colby, Kansas people should catch up and follow the lead.
We've had a lot of great people from Colby do this program, so there's something in the water over there.
Okay. What'd you want to be? Did you want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to keep running the cattle. My brothers all ran businesses back home, so I knew I wanted to do something like that. When I went to college, I was actually thinking about working in banking for a while too, and then to eventually keep getting into my entrepreneurship career, but didn't really know what I wanted to do until I started working here. And then I realized I don't want anything to do with banking or sitting in an office all day, crunching numbers. Instead, I'd much rather be out like in the field, talking to people and doing like what I do now.
And Sean, you wanted to, I think, just move to Colby and start a business there originally, right?
Oh, yeah, dream place. I thought I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I thought I wouldn't be able to be one until I was in my 40s. So I knew entrepreneurs and they all seemed to be old. They took over a business. There was a family business that they'd worked in for years, or they left their career when they were 40 and started a business. So I thought you had to work somewhere for a long time before you became an entrepreneur. And I picked accounting. I thought I was going to be an accountant.
Wow.
And then go start a business.
What such misfires. Just a reminder, I think episode 4 or 5 is the disc episode. Listen to the disc episode of this podcast and then go take a disc test. The ones you pay $100 for are better than the other ones. But if you're in the wrong major or studying the wrong thing because your personality doesn't fit, it's good to figure that out soon, not later. And what was that? 1, 2, 3 of the people, including me, I guess 4 of the 7 of us all were going the wrong way because I wanted to be a lawyer, which is very detail oriented, and I'm not a detail oriented person. So I could have never been excellent. Could have never been excellent at something that you're just not. You can try really, really hard and you can get pretty good. But that's interesting. We're all going the wrong way. So take that disc test. And so then you all did start a business while you're in college, and every one of us, all 7 of us, ran a little branch of CollegeWorks. Well, mine was very little. Kory's was not little, but I did have 9 employees when I was in college, and I did have quite a few customers. I don't remember how many, 26, 27, 28. I did 100 and something sales calls. All of it was scary for me, all of it. But think back real quick. Think back. You're starting off a business. It doesn't have to just be the CollegeWorks business, but what was the scariest part of starting the business, the CollegeWorks branch for you, and what became of that fear? So I was not, I guess I was scared of the sales. I didn't like the sales part. Maybe I was blocking it. And what became of it was I was horrible. And then I realized that sales is the whole world and everything's sales. And it was kind of fit me. But at first I was absolutely the worst and it was scary. And that's probably why it was the worst. What about you, Kory? What was the scariest and what happened with that?
I was definitely afraid of failing due to lack of sales. Like I never sold anything before. I remember like thinking like I'd be lucky to sell at least 70 grand going into this. So I remember like going to the training and paying a lot of attention to how do you market it, how do you sell it, and then same thing like doing extra meetings with my DM, just paying attention to it all. But that part didn't faze me, or that part was the part that scared me the most. The hiring employees, the managing it, I was pretty confident in that part.
And in the end, were you good at the second part and have a rough time with the first part?
The first part was the easiest part for me. I mean, sales, I feel like to me, it's like the part you're not worried about, or the part you are worried about is what you're good at. But yeah, the recruiting employees and managing them, that was the part I lacked at the beginning.
Yeah, me too. All my 9 people quit. So Schuster, what about you? What was the scariest part? What happened with it?
For me, I think it was the stability of everything, going from playing, football in college, having all my school paid for, never had to, take out a loan or pay a dime for any of my education. going into it. I gave up a full scholarship in my last semester of college. So I know I said this in my podcast episode as well, but I remember super vividly, and I'll never forget this, talking to my district manager and saying, how worried I was about, making enough money. It was $10,000 or $13,000 to pay off my last semester of college. And, his exact response was, if you don't make over $10,000 this summer, I failed you. And so I think that's what it is for a lot of people as well, is, the transition from going from a stable, hourly paying job, making, $15, $20 an hour, whatever it is, to like having the uncertainty. And what came of that is I was worried about not making $13,000, ended up making almost $45,000 in a summer.
I should give you a yellow card for that. I have no reason to give you a yellow card other than jealousy. So you get a jealousy yellow card for making that much money while you're doing this program. Just for the record, if you're keeping track at home, that's 3 people, fear of failure. Kory called it fear of not having sales. I called it fear of not having sales. Tyler called it fear of not making any money, but that's 3 for 3, fear of failure. Jack, you got to be different, isn't it?
Well, I'm similar. I think mine was a fear of lack of experience, because I feel like I had a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be successful coming into it. Number one was I was at a pretty big Big Ten party school. Like at the time, I think we were ranked like number 1 in the nation for partying. And so people around me were really good at partying, but not really good at running a business. And I just felt like a lot of reasons. Like I worked at a grocery store. That was my only job I've really ever had. No outdoor labor jobs or management jobs. I was a really shy person throughout high school and college. Never worked to work 40 times a week or 40 hours a week before. I was a pre-business student, didn't take any business classes. I think that was my biggest doubt, was I'm supposed to be like a pretty average student and now running a 6-figure painting business. And I feel like I had a lot of like, what if I don't do well, or all these excuses why I shouldn't do well. So for me, it was getting out of my comfort zone and just getting rid of those fears and just kind of jumping into it and just doing it.
Yeah, I had to show you a yellow card. Your school was not the number 1 ranked party school in the nation. Give us a break.
I don't know.
Madison has never been number 1. However, UC Santa Barbara, where I went, has been. Tulane, where my son went, has been. And we can't ever forget about ASU. But I don't believe we're going to have to see some evidence on that.
I think every person thinks their school they went to is
No. We're dealing with a bunch of Midwesterners. Everyone in the Midwest thinks their school is the best in business. Like, I can't tell you how many number 1s there are in the Midwest. So you might have had the greatest party school in the Midwest, but that's not California. McCullough, what about you? What was the scariest part?
Yeah, it definitely fits into the failure bucket as well. I think my number 1 question to myself was just plain and simple, like, am I going to be good at this? I was most excited about the management and leadership opportunity. I always knew I wanted to do, no matter what the field of business or field of anything that I worked in, I knew I wanted to lead and manage eventually. So that was what I kind of was really excited about. And I was like, well, if I have to learn sales in order to get those skills, I suppose that's, what I have to do. So I saw sales as more of like a chore. And I remember having a lot of doubts early on about being good at sales, especially also on top of that having no business background. Like the first semester that I took business classes was the semester that I did college work. So I came from a very analytical and I guess science and math based background, and I had to work really hard on the communication skills and learning how to push through all the sales learning curve.
Brett, you're not scared of anything, so there was nothing, right?
I think I was scared of everything when I started off at this internship. So I feel like for me, it was really just the fact that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in business. I know I had worked hard in the past. I knew I was a competitive person, but I'd never really done anything in business. So it was kind of like a dual-edged sword for me, where I had never sold, I'd never marketed, I'd never managed, I never worked, 50, 60, 40 hours a week, whatever. But that's also the exact reason that I did this too, was because I wanted to get experience of learning how to market, how to sell, how to manage employees, manage clients, manage profit, right? So I feel like just early on for me, it was just, it was fear of failure, fear of doubt, fear of, oh my gosh, I've never done these things. But at the same time, it was also the whole reason I did it. And what I slowly learned was, like, whenever I started feeling that way, it kind of shifted my mindset to, this is good. Like, that means I'm learning, right? Like, this is the whole reason I'm doing this, is to get out of my comfort zone. And it's scary now, but looking back, when I was the most scared or most stressed, whatever, that's where I learned the most and got the most out of that stuff. So yeah.
Right on. Well, Sean, I'm going to change the question up on you, and then maybe other people want to chime in on this. And Brett, I noticed when you were talking, you kept looking upper left, upper left, upper left while you were talking to me. Is that because our sponsor, Fortaleza and Los Abuelos Tequila, is attracting your attention? Because Fortaleza Tequila is delicious, as you know.
Yeah, it's
Well, just congratulations on your 3 weeks ending tomorrow, Brett. Congratulations on your 3-week challenge. Sean, what's your failure to success story? Everybody here talked about what they were scared of, and then we all failed. What was your big failure and how did it turn into success?
I think my big failures came in the summer when I had to start managing people and managing projects. And I was really confused if working hard with being effective. And I thought if I went home exhausted at the end of the day because I'd made 17 trips to the paint store and been to the job site 11 times and talked to all my painters a bunch throughout the day, that it was a really good day because I'd worked really, really hard, even though it was really unproductive and ineffective. And so that was a challenge that kind of I battled all summer long. And I remember telling my DM, I don't have enough time at the end of the day to get organized. I can't do the sacred hour. I don't think we called it that yet, but I can't do that end of the day organization to make tomorrow better because I'm too exhausted. And whenever I make a plan, I don't even really follow the plan. But what did happen is once I finally started making a plan, things went better than if I didn't make a plan. Even if I didn't follow that plan perfectly, things just went better and I got a lot more done. So realizing that how effective I was in a leadership role wasn't just about how hard I could work, but how much I could get done and how well I could organize it.
That's such a weird perspective because I always focus on, are you hardworking or not? Because if you're hardworking, pretty much anything can happen. But you're right. There's a lot of people that aren't hardworking. They're screwed. And then you get the hardworking, non-effective. So you were busy. You weren't effective. And I think what you need to do is be effective and work hard. But that's pretty interesting.
I loved effort theater, as Brett and I like to call it. Effort theater of look at all the things I did. None of them were very productive. I went to the paint store 5 times for 1 tube of caulk. I could have bought 5 tubes of caulk at the first trip, but I wanted to be able to stay really busy all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget that. Jack, I know you had some failures from your intern year that turned into something awesome. Give me an example.
Yeah, I think because I did a lot of failure, like I did 135 estimates. I think 83 of them I did not book, which means I wanted to go in there. I asked what option I wanted. I said none of them. And 83 times that happened to me. And I think
Did you say 139 and 83?
or 135 estimates, 83 said no to me.
So that means you booked 52 jobs?
Yeah, 52.
Quit your bitching, dude. 52 jobs. Are you kidding me? That's
Two
twice
yellow
as
cards
many
in the
as
red.
me. So now I
Yeah.
can no longer claim the inflation thing. Okay.
Yeah. No, I've been in a lot of failure with painters and all that, but also a lot of successes too. And I think after being in Culver's now for 9 years, I think my mindset around failure and issues, I'm very positive on it. Like, for example, I remember this last year specifically, an example of what happened with a customer. Unfortunately, got some paint on customer's roof, all over the roof. We had to replace the roof. And my first reaction was, oh, it's okay, it happens. And I was actually with my fiance, Anne, at the time. She's like, what, aren't you pissed right now? I'm like, well, and it happens. We're running a big business. It's going to happen no matter what. So I can't really be too upset. It's going to happen. And I think after that's dealing with so many failures and conflicts over the years, I don't really get too down on myself or really too high with the really good thing that's happened. I'm kind of just keep a level head, and that helps me, I think, go through my day-to-day a lot easier. So I don't get way up or way down emotionally.
Wow. That's probably a solution to everybody's biggest failure. And congratulations to Jack, who will be married as of the airing of the show. This comes out 3 days after Jack's wedding. Congratulations to Jack, and definitely congratulations to Anne. What a winning couple. Brad, I'm going to go to you next. I don't know if you've disappeared to go to the Fortaleza shelf at your house since I last asked you a question, but any failure to success stories that are good from you?
Yeah. Well, even before that, you can go ahead and ship me one of those bottles after this because the deal is really good. But I remember, I'll never forget this, but my intern year, I pulled the Thomas Edison, thousands of 10,000 tries to, make a light bulb. And he figured out pretty much thousands of ways how to not make it, and then eventually figured it out. I did the same thing with production. I had a job where I went extremely over, set horrible expectations with the customer, didn't train my painters, didn't manage my painters. everything went completely wrong. Like the job took, 3 times as long as it should have. And I had a crossroads moment that summer of like, I could either, learn from the mistakes of this and learn what not to do so I know what now I can do, or I can let it ruin my summer. And honestly, like when I look back at that job, the good thing with painting is like even though I screwed up all this stuff, the job was still good by the end. The quality was there, and we fixed everything, and that was reassuring. But the rest of the summer, I had some of the best painters. I had some of the best clients. I ran really smooth production, and like I learned from the mistakes, and that was like a very hard lesson, especially as a 19-year-old college student who never managed, never done this stuff before. And really, that was kind of a moment where I shifted to start, really using failures not as a, calling myself stupid or getting myself down or getting down on myself, but using it as a tool and learning from it. And because I learned from that, that's changed a lot of things in my life and a lot of things in my business life as well.
Wow. That's interesting. And as you were talking, I was thinking, my wife called me aside last week after Sean and I had a pretty difficult couple days of dealing with every single problem that could ever pop up. None of them were our faults. All of them were our problems. Everybody's screwing up around us. And my wife's like, you need to take a break. She made me take Monday off. You need to take a break. I'm worried about you. And as you were talking, Brett, I was thinking, that's kind of what I learned from my challenges. All my painters quit at a barbecue. All I wanted to do was be a good boss. Evidently I wasn't. They all quit while I was cooking their food for them. While they filled up their beers off the keg I bought, and they quit. And then they trampled all of my plants at my house. And 4 of them were my roommates and had to hook a lefty and come right back in the door. And freaking out wasn't going to solve my problem. Luckily, I turned my ears on, so it wasn't a mindset or a level head. I listened to my buddy Gunnar tell me I was the worst boss of all time. But as you were talking, I was just thinking about, I've had some bad shit, as you guys know, go down. I've lost a few friends, and I can sit there and freak out about it, or I can level my mindset and control what I control and be the best friend to their kid or whatever it is that I can be. That getting out of that failure mindset, that poor me mindset, into that mindset that Brett's talking about of, well, this is just an opportunity to learn. Shit's going to happen all the time. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much goes wrong when you're running a business for the first time. It's like you guys are all giving me one story, like the guys poured stuff down the drain and went down the hill. I couldn't sell to save my life and was a total failure. All my painters quit. The dude that chopped the tree down, the dude that I gave my car to that broke my car. There's 5, and all of you have these 5 things. But I guess what I learned from all that is it just keeps coming. Might as well not freak out about it. I want to remind us again that we are sponsored by Fortaleza and Los Abuelos, Brett's favorite beverage of choice. Tyler, the double T's. You guys got any failure to success stories?
Yeah. First, before I get into my failures, if you're sending some sponsors, I'd love to help sponsor that.
As I disclosed in the last episode, Fortaleza does not really sponsor this show. That's all made up. I just like Fortaleza, and I'm advertising for Fortaleza. And I will not be giving you my personal stash. I had to go to Mexico, to Tequila, to get this personal stash. And the other ones that I left outside, my kids have already drank.
Awesome. Yeah. So getting into a little bit of my failures, I think I love what Jack and Brett had to say. Learning from your failures, you can look at it and beat yourself up, or you can just learn from it. And that's really what I had to do, is just take all of the quote unquote failures and use it as learning lessons. So for me, early on, I was really, really bad at sales. Maybe not to your level, but I think I went like 1 for 8 on my first 8 estimates. District manager had to come back out, retrain me in sales. So hearing no early on from a lot of people, I think that helps a lot. Later in the future, you might not see it when it's happening, but it helps you to learn and grow from it. Every no that you get is closer to a yes. So
face isn't as red as mine, belly isn't as big, didn't suck as bad as I did. Thanks, Tyler. Sean.
I really thought he was getting another yellow card there.
Oh, yeah, I should have. I got to reach into my box. Yeah, you are going to get a yellow card. 3 yellow cards on one show. 2 not comment on my suckiness. Sean, what What do you wish you did in the summer? It's good. We're going into summer. A lot of College Works people listen to this. Other people are running other businesses elsewhere. A lot of people in Melbourne, Australia. Shout out to Melbourne, Australia. What do you want to say to the people starting their businesses in Melbourne or in College Works that you did that made all the difference? Or no, let's change it. What do you wish you had done that would have made all the difference as you launched your first business that summer?
What do I wish I had done? I think I wish I had continued to focus on sales in the beginning of the launch of production. I told my DM, I'm going to really focus on production for a few weeks and then I'm going to get back to sales. And he told me that'll never work. And one thing you learn in this business is your DM's usually right most of the time. Your VP is usually right most of the time. And they've done this before and they've seen a lot of reps and they kind of know what's going on. And so I wanted to fight and say, I'm special, I'm different. And this is just going to work for my business. And those were lost weeks that I never got back and opportunities that never resurfaced.
Wow. I'm going to have to go second because that's mine too, except I did it the other way. I was selling. And then as soon as I got successful, I stopped selling and I started praying, I guess is what it could have been. I remember the apartment complex I was definitely going to book that was going to get me over 100 grand. They said no. I didn't go out and do. I hoped. And man, I wish I would have kept doing, not hoping. But at the end of the summer, not the beginning of the summer. Tyler Schuster, way back in time for you, like 2 years ago. What do you wish you would have kept doing? Or what do you wish you would have done?
It's going to be the same exact thing. I think I hit my goals early. I wanted to do about $150,000 in sales revenue. Got there really early on, was up on that leaderboard. I think at the start of production, I was top 5, maybe in sales. Then I took my foot off the gas pedal. Thought I would get back into it later on. Started having a whole bunch of fun, taking weekends off. And just like your DM usually says, it's pretty hard to get back into it. Ended up finishing the year at $156,000 instead of $200,000. And yeah, now it's looking back on it, I always say, yeah, I could have done a lot better, but nobody cares what you could have done.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that doesn't earn you trophies like the one behind Kory right now that Jack doesn't have. Kory, what about you?
Mine aren't participation awards, Matt.
Well, did you get your trophy? I had it mailed to you last week.
I did get that notification right before this call.
Good.
I'm just kidding, Kory.
Gosh, you guys notice how white Jack's teeth look today? They look great.
Yeah. Jack, you look good for your wedding. You really have picked it up for the wedding. The wedding that has just happened. If you're listening right now, Jack is already married.
If you're listening right now, I'm currently on my honeymoon right now, or mini moon actually.
Please tell me you're not going on a honeymoon after your wedding. We're counting on you. Kory, don't let Jack answer. Don't let Jack answer. Kory, what is it?
Oh man, I'm trying to debate between sales and hiring painters because I kept sales going, but I had some painters that were not that great, and I lied to myself for a whole month of the summer thinking that they were awesome. I'll spend all day retraining them every day, and then I would leave and they would still screw up as soon as I leave. Finally, I just broke down, got upset, they quit, and then I had this like sunk cost fallacy in my mind that I put all this work into this crew, it's over. And then a week later, I hired like 2 new painters, and that turned the whole business around.
Yeah, if you're sinking a cost into something that's not worth putting money into, it's time to get rid of that something. Well, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, I do tend to fall into the sunk cost fallacy here and there often. It doesn't have to be just with money, but it's like time spent into people that you just can't get back and you got to move on. So that was my big one.
Brett?
Probably realizing that like when it comes to management, hiring good employees is like 90% of the work. When I was an intern, like especially early on in the summer, I was just on, I guess like specifically College Works, I was on the job site way too much, way too hands-on. Like, first time managing, it was hard to trust people, like, because I was working so hard and cared so much. And, if they made one mistake, I'd jump in and jump out. But really what that did is that caused me to not sell as much as I should have. It caused my painters to get more attached to me. It caused things like running the business wise to not be ready to go when it should be ready to go. And I was just constantly behind. And, eventually I kept trying. I was trying, but I wasn't trying hard enough. I should have focused more on painter hiring. But when I finally got to the point where I had really competent painters, then I didn't have to be on the job site as much and I could sell more. and I could get jobs ready more and be more of a business owner, not a painter or like a project manager for a paint crew, because I didn't do this because I wanted to be a house painter. I wanted to do it because I wanted to learn how to be a CEO. So I think early on for me, just focusing on finding the right people and then investing time into those people, learning how to delegate. I wish I would have done that sooner in my summer.
Yeah, when you're selling, you're worth hundreds of dollars an hour. When you're managing, you're worth hundreds of dollars an hour. When you're sweeping, you're not worth hundreds of dollars an hour. And in fact, you've quit your job where you get paid $100 an hour to go take this other job that's worth $18 an hour or whatever it is. And the other point you made, and it's just so counterintuitive. If I'm in business and I help my employees out, I'm helping out. But that's not the case. If I'm in business, if you're training your employees, you're helping them out. If you're tracking or inspiring your employees, you're helping them out. But if you're doing your employee's job, you're actually hindering them. You're not helping them out because now they're addicted to you doing that portion of their job, or now they're addicted to you taking care of that problem. And I liken it to when I had kids, Brett. Oh, I still have kids. They're just old. But when I had little kids, they'd come home and they've been on the playground and their shoes are filled with sand, right? And they would come home and throw their shit everywhere, and there'd be sand everywhere. And Jill and I were sweeping up after them and picking up their messes. And finally, one day, we're like, no more. You guys need to clean up your own mess. We did a little zone, and Kennedy had one zone and Jake had the other zone, and they stopped taking their shoes off and throwing sand everywhere. They stopped leaving their clothes everywhere. So whatever your company is that you're starting up, if you're down there on the assembly line restitching up what was just stitched up wrong, that's not going to work. It's always going to be stitched up wrong. If you're cleaning up the messes that other people made, they're always going to make messes. And that's a really important thing to learn before you jump in there and do all these things that are really hindering your business. Tyler, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback off the couple other answers in the beginning with sales. I'll add something new though. I remember thinking that sales were just going to be so much easier in the summer because that's what my DM said. Was like, oh yeah, it's like the best time to sell, whatever. The summer's here, like the need is already developed, and that was 100% true. But the thing that I forgot was what made the sales process work. So I forgot, the developing the lead at the door, setting the appointment time, and being organized and following up and doing all the stuff that we were working so hard to build up during the springtime. I just thought, well, sales is going to be easier in the summer. And I basically forgot the entire process. So I'd walk into the estimate like uber confident and have none of the other steps completed. And then for some reason, I was surprised when they're like, yeah, we got to think about it. Or yeah, we're going to get a couple other estimates. I was like, what the heck? So that was a pretty big lesson that I learned, is that just because, you get more confident doesn't mean you can't forget what made you confident in the first place.
Well, let's go the other way. Not what mistake you made, but what was the thing you did that made all the difference, Jack? Why did you win?
I think because I went all into this and it gave me an outlet in college to do something and put onto it and get real results. And I was thinking like a lot of my friends are just like an average college student. They usually have a few different outlets they can choose from. It's go into school, get a 4.0, put all your energy into a club or a couple of clubs and be the president of the club, put all your energy into a sport and play a sport. And after those 4 years of college, all three of those outlets pretty much end. I mean, the 4.0 GPA, like it's great helping you get your job, but a lot of jobs don't really care once you get the job what your GPA is. Or once you finish playing a sport, you don't just get a job and then, oh great, you're gonna get a raise because you play a college sport. But in this, I was able to put all my energy into something that was building my future. And so, I was still a president of a club in college, a finance club, but I didn't put all my energy into that. I put a lot of energy into a bunch of things, but really into college works. And I was able to learn time management and management and sales and network with a bunch of different people. And it ended up giving me a lot of opportunities out of college because I could put a lot into this. And it was a real outlet to give my passion for business and passion for just working hard and give me an outlet to do that and then find success.
What about you, Tyler McCullough? What's the thing that made all the difference for you that you did?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing was the mindset shift. And what I preach a ton to current interns is this idea of just taking ownership. In the beginning, I was treating it like a normal job. I was going into it thinking, if I put in X amount of time, I'll get X amount of results back, because that's how I was with any other job or school or what have you. And it was more of
tracking and knowing your own business more than anything was actually looking at the stats. The first 2 months of the internship, I'm going to out myself here too, because I'm sure there's probably even more impressive stats, but these are definitely not impressive. I did 36 estimates in the first 2 months and sold 16 grand. And then basically doubled the amount of estimates in the next 2 months, but went from 16K booked to over $110,000 booked. So the first 2 months, I didn't really take ownership. I was just kind of going through the motions. And then the second 2 months, I really started paying attention to my own business and working on getting through the failures. And basically the same amount of time put in, but much more conscious effort and tracking and my own growth and what I was doing wrong and right was what made all the difference. So it's easy to get caught up into, like Kory was saying, that kind of sucking cost fallacy. But what you don't realize is the things that you can't track or see, just like numbers on a leaderboard, the lessons you learn and the skills that you develop, you need to capitalize on those and keep going to make it worth your time.
For me, it was the value of integrity, just telling people what I could do and what I couldn't do, and just being real with people. I learned the power of being real, and I started that soon into my internship and carried it through production. And it really, really helped me to not sugarcoat things and be real with clients. Again, it's not my fault. It's our problem, though. It's got to be fixed, or whatever the problem is, got to be taken care of, and being straightforward with that, and not paying for things myself, and that, and then also making time to plan the business, the sacred hour, as we call it now. Those are my two big ones. What about you, Brett?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Jack and Tyler's, especially of the extreme ownership and just putting in the time and effort into like giving it my all, like something that's going to pay out in the long run. So I'll say something that maybe hasn't been said, but I feel like one thing that really allowed me to be successful here is I used the network like really well. So every intern as a district manager, like I utilized, asking him a million questions and trying to learn as much from him. And during the summer, we do all these like networking events where like all the interns come together and we do fun things. And some people went there and didn't really talk to a lot of people, but like I remember Gage Ward, shout out Gage Ward, booked like 45 grand in the first payroll Friday event. And I was struggling at sales at that time. And I remember really going up to him and having a conversation, seeing what he's doing and what I'm not doing. And there's somebody else that had just produced like, $15,000 worth of work, which was a lot for that point of the summer or something, or it was a lot to me. And I was struggling at, managing and running the production and, having conversations with my VP like Sean and, even continuing on with this internship, growing relationships with everybody on this call and not being afraid to ask questions and what's working and what's not working. When you surround yourself around like-minded, like-motivated individuals, you can learn a lot from them as well. So I feel like I use that network very well as an intern and still try really hard this day to continue to do that.
Did you avoid the detractors? Because there's always that, yeah, screw that. Don't do what that person says. I've got my own way. I've got a better way of doing this. Did you actively avoid those people?
Yeah, and it was pretty easy to know. Typically, it was the people that didn't have the most ownership. As soon as I started hearing excuses come out of people's mouths, no matter how valid or unvalid, it's like, like Tyler, I had a very rough start to this internship because I made a lot of excuses. I didn't take ownership over my actions, over the essence I did, the amount of time I was putting in the spring, the learning that I did. So definitely surround yourself and making sure the advice is coming from someone who is successful. Like, would I switch places with this intern? Are they the type of person that I should be listening to? Yeah, that plays a huge part.
I love that ownership, especially now that I'm shifting over to ask Kory, because his sister is not taking ownership of her life and blaming other people for things that have happened and not going out there and making it happen. Shout out to Kory Finley for blaming me for some of the things in her life. We've learned in business not to do that. But what was it for you, Kory? What made all the difference to your business?
I think it was being coachable. I remember I had second weekend of sales. I booked couple jobs and they both canceled. I asked my DM, what am I doing wrong? Because I remember thinking to myself, if other people are doing it, then surely I could be doing it rather than it's kind of taking ownership. But no, I was genuinely curious, what am I doing wrong? And we kind of went through the whole process to figure out what was causing people to book and then cancel later. And once I figured that out, the problem didn't reoccur for the rest of the year. And for the whole internship, I just remember thinking, what am I doing wrong here? And even DMing, VPing, if Sean or you have ever recognize me asking the question, what am I doing wrong? Because I fully believe like I can do whatever anyone else is doing, just so as long as I do it the right way and be coachable about it.
That's the mindset in your answer. And everybody's the same thing. You got to have ownership. How you do one thing's how you do everything. How much effort are you putting in? I hear all in, I hear mindset, I hear ownership over and over and over. Sean, take us home. What's yours?
So for me, it was leadership. I got to the end of the internship and thought, I did succeed. I achieved some of the goals that I set out to achieve. And if I have a game plan in front of me and somebody coaching me, my DM was a great DM, I can achieve success. And then I started thinking for maybe a month, like, what am I going to do next? And what's going to be the next big thing that I'm going to go succeed at? And then every time I played out the future in my head of what's that going to look like, I was going to get to a wall in about year 5 or year 10 or year 20 where me being successful no longer mattered, and it became, how can I make other people successful? If I were to go start my own business and make it successful, at what point am I going to try to expand to 10 locations or 20 locations or 100 locations? And how am I going to share the success with other people? And I became really curious and fascinated with the idea of like leadership is how you really truly accomplish really incredible stuff, not by yourself, no matter how hard you work or how organized you are or how good you are at sales. You're one person and it stops with you. But if you can share it with others and you can transfer the skill to others, and it actually took me probably 2 or 3 years of DMing before I really got that down and became good at it. I was a terrible district manager my first year because I wasn't a great leader yet, but just recognizing that I needed to get good at leadership, and leadership is where I was really going to make the biggest impact and have the most fun and be around other people and sharing success with others. And what I just accomplished and learned was, I think, what really changed my life.
Who are your supporters and who are your detractors?
I mean, really, a lot of the team I was around here and my district manager, my VP, we had some really successful DMs in the division at the time, a lot of the leaderboard. And I just thought if I can be around these people and absorb, through osmosis and through coachability and asking them what they're doing, what am I doing wrong when I'm not doing it right, as Kory talked about, I think I had a really supportive team.
That's so nice for you. That's not what I had. I had off on an island by myself with like 1 or 2 managers anywhere near me in a town filled with detractors. And they used to call me Stewie before there was that show. And they used to just heckle me, Stewie, what are you doing? Stewie, why are you working so hard? Stewie, let's go drinking. And I actually learned, like Brett, to drink too fast because I'd stay out working till 7, 8 p.m. They'd all get started at noon. We all had to be done by 1 a.m. I had to catch up. And it was just nonstop detractors. My parents were supportive. A lot of people have their own parents as detractors. And I remember the one that gave me the most crap, this guy, Aaron, and I forget his last name. But I think I told you, I actually just stayed in the hotel. I just told Jill the story again. For her birthday, I rented a room in the hotel that Aaron worked at. And when I pulled up in my Ferrari, Aaron was the valet at 31 years old, and he used to heckle me all the time. Stewie, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters who you know, just over and over and over. And I was embarrassed. And Jill's like, you shouldn't be embarrassed. He's embarrassed. And then I started going to the weddings all the time, and the detractors would be like, yeah, Stewie, we knew you'd kick all of our asses. You were working hard, and we were making fun of you. But I was just surrounded by them. And I didn't have this nice team that you're talking about to lift me up and make me feel all good. I was just constantly, why are you working so hard? What a waste of time. Stupid painters, blah, 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 blah. And I just had to, like you guys were saying, change my mindset, take ownership, put my head down and make it happen. What was your life like, Brett? Did you have the wonderful euphoria that Sean lived in, or did you have the normal life that I lived? Who were your supporters and distractors?
It was kind of, it was a tale of two cities for me because in the springtime, all of my roommates in college, they never got an internship in college. Like they just went home and just did whatever. And the fact that I was working so much caused a lot of resentment, kind of like what you were talking about.
Wow.
But then in the summer, I was the only person in my territory, or maybe there's one other person there. And all my friends went back home to Kansas City. I stayed in Lawrence, Kansas. And then the detractors went away, and then I just had the supporters of the other interns and my district manager. So that probably also is a huge reason why I
Hey,
had
you got to
such a great
stop
summer.
associating with or just know I'm going to ignore these people. They're fun to hang out with, but really they just grind you down. You need people
Yeah.
that aren't detractors. By the way, you get this is a secret yellow and a red card. There you go, Aaron. Still got him. Go back to parking them. And I just used to drive me crazy. Just used to drive me. I got so much shit. What about you, Tyler? Tyler?
To go Schuster.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, I might be living in like the fantasy land too, I guess. But I'd say, I mean, all my family, my friends supported,
Isn't that
a whole bunch. Maybe they had their doubts and they just like didn't express it.
Oh, they didn't tell you their doubts. Yeah.
And maybe
told me
they
their
saw that I
doubts.
was working. They saw I was working really, really hard. But yeah, I guess maybe just didn't pay enough attention to, the negativity from other people or whatever, or just didn't want to be surrounded with them or associated with them at all. So I guess I kept it pretty tight with that.
Wow. So basically what I've learned so far is Sean and Tyler are better at selecting friends that are like they're mature friends. You don't when you're older, you don't hang out with the detractors that talk trash all the time. You hang out with the people that lift you up, and then what they will tell you what you're doing wrong, and that's what you want from a friend. But looks like Brett and I, who are very close friends, aren't good at picking our friends. And Sean and Tyler, who are great friends, are good at it. So we have 3 left. Who are your detractors or distractors, however you want to say it? And who were the people that supported you, Tyler McCullough?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't living in fantasy land. All my friends and family, for one reason or another, had an input or a reason as to why I was wasting my time and how I should go get a normal internship and whatever you want to call it. And a lot of that, like you said, Matt, did turn around. I remember the day that I sold my $80,000, which was Cancun at the time, was the prize. And coming back to my parents' house and saying, "Hey, mom and dad, I just got off the phone with the VP. He said, congrats. I just bought your Cancun flight ticket." And just the look on their faces and, it said it all, like, wow, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like we were telling them 2-3 months ago, like, this is probably not going to work. And I mean, there was a bunch of reasons, of being COVID and just starting up a business period is already scary enough. And, all the other craziness that was going on, me not having a business background, there's a gazillion reasons not to be successful, but I still wanted to try it and put my best foot forward. So I'm really glad I did not listen to the detractors and gave it my best shot, because it definitely ended up working out.
I'm going to have to give Tyler a bonus point for choosing extra friends because your friends weren't really detracting. They were worried. They were protecting you. They were looking for ways to protect you from something that they thought you might fail at. Whereas mine and Brett's friends were just telling us we're losers, give it up. We're losers, give it up. You had people acting out of fear. And a lot of parents do that. They act out of fear. Don't do that. You might get hurt. Don't do it. Well, if I do it, I might get hurt, but I also might win. Oh, that's an interesting one. All right. So we have 3-2 now, Brett. Well, Tyler's kind of in the middle, but we're still going to give them to Sean and Tyler. So Jack, which way do you lean? Supporters, detractors?
Yeah.
What'd you have?
More detractors, definitely following Brett's footsteps here. But I do say, I do think that, well, especially Tyler, Sean, and Brett are very supportive because they always let me beat them in fantasy football every fall. And that really helped me get through the recruiting season. But my family was really supportive. My brother did this before I did, so I knew what it was. And I wasn't going to do it until my mom called me like 3 weeks into freshman year of college and, "Hey, Jack, you got to get a job. You don't have college works like your brother did to pay for college." I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right." And then about a month later, I got a job as a scorekeeper for basketball, making $10 an hour. And about a month later, I ended up doing college works. And so they were really supportive from the start. And every book job, I put it in my group chat and, "Hey, I booked the job." My first paycheck for $13,000, like middle of June, put that in my family group chat, like first paycheck. So they were super supportive, but my friends were not that supportive. They did definitely make fun of me a lot. Kind of like you 3 were saying.
All right. Who did I miss?
Me.
Oh, Kory, it's a full tie. Out there in Colby, Kansas, did you have a lot of supporters or a lot of detractors?
Oh man, it was split. Like, well, my mom was a detractor, my dad was a supporter, my siblings were supporters, my girlfriend's family detractors.
Got a new one.
I'm married to her now, so
Oh, same girlfriend.
same girlfriend.
Oh, I thought you swapped her out for
she
that.
was no, so she was also kind of a detractor at the beginning too, but she just let me do it anyway. But yeah, but then like my distant friends all thought it was pretty cool. So I don't know.
So
It's
you're
kinda
going to
hard
take our 3 versus 3 tie and make it a 3.5 versus 3.5 tie. Okay. I'm just going to vote for co-award winners when we get down to Turks and Caicos this year because of that. Well, we're running out of time. I want to go rapid fire. I just have this theory that, well, I'm not going to tell you what my theory is. Rapid fire. You started a business from the ground up when you were in your late teens, early 20s. Everyone on this call was then promoted to help other people start businesses. Were you ready? Just yes or no. Were you ready for that next step, Brett?
No.
Tyler Schuster.
Absolutely not.
Tyler McCullough.
Nope.
Kory Finley.
No.
Jack.
Nope.
Sean, have you
No.
ever been ready for any next step you've ever taken?
No.
This comes from my podcast with Mike Cato and Nicole McMacken I did, and Nicole brought it up. Nicole's like kind of the person whenever I think, what would Nicole do? That's how I solve my problems, because she's just on the straight path. She's always true to her values. And what we realized was successful people are never ready for the next step. They just take the next step. And that's because successful people need courage. So we're going to close this up. Think about the thing that it takes to succeed in business. I just used up the word courage. Can't copy me. Well, maybe you can. What does it take? What's the character trait that people need for success, whether it's in the AI era, the old business era, before iron, before electricity, after iron, after electricity? What are the character traits you need to succeed launching a business and starting a business? Tyler,
I'll leave with
oh, Sean, go.
improving from failure. It's not
Mhm.
just perseverance. It's not just ignoring failure, but it's using failure to learn.
Okay, McCullough.
All right. Well, mine was almost exactly like Sean's. It was, I said, tolerance for failure. And more importantly, to always somehow feel like you're winning. No one likes to feel like they're losing. So even through the failures, you got to feel like you're winning, because if you don't, then you're just going to go the opposite direction.
And we see that in our political environment right now. Jack.
I say mine, invest in yourself. When I took over the Wisconsin Leadership after college, every person around me basically was saying, don't do it. Here's all these reasons. It's COVID. You can't even do an estimate anymore. We had a class talk like a billion reasons why I shouldn't do it. But then one day I'm just like, I think I can do is invest in myself. I hear all this, but I can do this. And I just did it.
Wow. Kory.
And Sean stole mine, but being coachable or having great work ethic, those two.
Schuster.
Persistence, or I guess self-belief as well.
All right. And Brett.
A lot of everybody stole mine, so I'll end it with controlling the controllables.
Yeah. No unforced errors. What can you affect versus stressing out about all the things you can't affect? Well, fellas, I really appreciate you making time out of your very busy day. Jack, congratulations on your wedding last weekend. It was an absolutely beautiful ceremony and looked fantastic. You looked great too. Loved the custom-made suit that you had made
Yeah,
just
thank
for
you.
your wedding.
I got too drunk at it though.
Oh, he sure did. All right. And with that, we're going to close it up. I do want to say thank you to Kory Finley for giving me something to make fun of Brett and Kory about during this episode. If you're starting a business this summer and you work with us, remember what we said here. It's hard, but it's not impossible. We know you can do it. Have fun, ditch the detractors, make it happen. Welcome to the Edge of Excellence.